In regards to the surgery Ethan had, this was a revision rhinoplasty, um, really to reconstruct the middle third of his nose, where he'd had what's called a saddle deformity. So in that case, the previous surgery, which is a known complication from rhinoplasty surgery, had led to a weakness in the middle part of the nose here, and that ended up dropping down. It's also called saddle deformity or boxer's nose. And sometimes that can also impact the nasal breathing. And thankfully, in Ethan's case, it hadn't worsened his breathing, but there was an obvious dip in the middle of his nose, as he described. So the surgery I undertook involved me taking cartilage from inside the ear, with an incision behind, and some soft tissue behind the ear called temporalis fascia. I then took that cartilage and diced that cartilage, so into tiny, tiny cubes, and then wrapped that cartilage around the soft tissue and stitched that together. I then made small incisions inside Ethan's nose, so without any cuts on the outside, and delivered that cartilage around the temporalis fascia in underneath the skin to reconstruct the nose. So prior to that, I'd made space through those incisions under the skin here and delivered the cartilage inside the nose, and then left one long suture here, and it keeps in place in that position with the cast in place. The ways I make sure that doesn't move, because the idea of putting tissue underneath the nose and leaving it means, well, what happens if it suddenly moves or migrates? I create a very tight pocket, so there's no other space for it to move, and the amount of cartilage is tailored to the amount that I need to reconstruct the nose by. The other important factor is the actual incision behind the ear doesn't leave a scar that's visible from the outside because it's behind the ear, and also it shouldn't change the shape of the ear. So you can see with Ethan showing later, it hasn't changed the shape of his ear because the actual outer structure of the ear is remaining, and the cartilage is taken from this region here, so it doesn't compromise hearing either. And this type of revision rhinoplasty doesn't involve a significant amount of recovery as a bigger reconstruction with rib cartilage or total reconstruction of the nose, but it does have consistent results. So in Ethan's case, it addressed the concern we had with the saddle deformity and reduced recovery, so therefore giving hopefully the best of both worlds.